This conference will
and
now be
IAC
recorded.
International Ethics Committee. Both are
Both are same actually. IRB we use the term in USA. IAC we use the term in.
and both are regulatory authorities.
These are not the regulatory authorities. These are the independent bodies. Maybe work under regulatory authorities, or maybe um, constituted by the, maybe formed by the health institutions. Nothing but US.
Yeah, to
IRB is
establish
the
to protect the rights.
right, correct. The main role of IRB is to protect the rights, safety, well-being of the subjects. And they review
Yes.
all the documents. Okay, they review all the documents and they review the documents as well. They approve the documents and they will review the study, how the study is going on. They'll review the study, how the study is going on. And they will review as well, they will approve the clinical trials also. Okay, they review the study, how the study is going on, whether the study is going on as per the regulations. Okay. So let us see. I have a slide on this one. I'll send you that slide. But instead of we'll discuss IRB responsibilities better in E6 guidelines. We have a separate section in the GCP guidelines. E6 or the GCP guidelines. So let us discuss guidelines here. As you can see, IEC, IRB responsibilities. IRB should safeguard the rights, safety, well-being of the trial subjects. Rights, safety, well-being of the trial subjects. Special attention should be paid to the subjects. Okay, and IRB should obtain all these documents. IRB should obtain protocol, informed consent forms, recruitment procedures like advertisements, and written information to be provided to the subjects. Okay, and available safety information, information about the payments, compensations available to the subjects. Investigator, current curriculum like CV, other documentation evidencing the qualification, or any other documents that IRB, IEC may need to fulfill its responsibility. Okay, so IRB should review the proposed clinical trial within the reasonable time and documents views in writing clearly identifying the trial and whatever the documents reviewed, dates for the following. Okay, so those are all the documents, mainly protocol amendment, informed consent form changes. Okay, advertisements like how you're going to recruit the subjects, any information, written information to be provided to subjects, IV, safety information, information about the payments, investigator CVs, all these. IRB should review the trial within the reasonable time and documents views in writing clearly identifying the trial, documents reviewed, dates for the following. Dates for the approval, dates for the disapproval, dates for the modifications required, if any, before the approval. After approval, any termination or suspension of approvals. All these should be clearly documented after reviewing all the submitted documents. Okay, and IRB should consider qualification of the investigator for the trial. IRB should consider the qualification of the investigator for proposed trial and documented by the CV curriculum meeting by any other relevant documentation that the IRB request. IRB should conduct continuing review of each ongoing clinical trial at different intervals. Okay, IRB should consider qualification of the investigator. IRB should conduct continuous review of ongoing clinical trial at least once per year. And IRB may request more information than which is outlined in the 4.8.10. 4.8.10, what are all the written information to be provided to subject? This we already discussed. All the information in written to be provided to subject. That will be given in 4.8.10 in the same document, 4.8.10. Okay, so, but in addition to that information provided in that paragraph, additional information also will be requested, but that additional information should be meaningful, not unnecessary information. When non-therapeutic trial is to be carried out. Non-therapeutic trial means?
Like no treatment value. Okay, phase
No,
1 trials. Phase 1 trials.
perfect. When non-therapeutic trial is to be carried out, that means phase 1 trials is to be carried out with the consent of the subject legally acceptable representative. Okay. IRB should determine that the proposed protocol or the documents adequately address the ethical concerns, meet the applicable regulatory requirements for such trials. So when phase 1 trial is to be carried out with the consent of, not by the subject, with the consent of subject legally acceptable representative. So definitely IRB should address which document, which protocol consent addressing this point. And where the protocol also indicates sometimes prior consent is not possible before we enroll the subject. Sometimes consent may not be possible for some studies. In those studies, IRB should determine which document, which protocol content addressing this point. IRB should review both amount of payment, method of payment to the subjects. To assure all these, okay, whether the subject should be prorated, all these. So IRB should ensure information provided to the subject regarding the payment, methods of payment, amounts of payment, schedule of payment to the subjects. Clear? IRB should review both amount and payment of the amount and method of payment to the subject, and also information regarding the payment is passed to the subject or not. That is also IRB will ensure whether subjects are informed about the payments. So when you see the composition, IRB consists of a reasonable number of members. IRB should consist of reasonable number of members who collectively have qualifications, experience, to review, evaluate the science, medical aspects. At least 5 members. At least one person whose primary area of interest is in non-scientific area. Okay, at least one member whose primary area of interest is non-scientific area. At least one member who is independent of site, institution. And only those members who are independent of investigator, sponsor of the trial, should owe the opinion on the trial related matters. And list of IRB members, their qualifications should be maintained. So this is the composition. IRB should perform functions according to the SOP and should maintain the written records of activities, minutes of meetings. They should comply with the JCP applicable regulatory requirements. IRB should make the decisions at announced meetings. Only members who participate in IRB review should owe the opinion. An investigator may provide the information on any aspect of the trial, but should not participate in any deliberations of the IRB. They can participate, but they cannot vote. IRB may invite other persons also with the proper expertise to vote the opinions. So IRB should establish, document in writing, follow its procedures, should include all these. They should determine the composition, authority under which it is established, names, qualifications of members, and scheduling the meetings, notifying its members of conducting its meetings. Continuing, conducting initial review, continuing review. Initial review as well, review at frequent intervals. And determining the frequency of continuing review. That means at what interval the review has to be done. Providing according to the applicable regulatory requirements. Expedited review. Favorable opinion on minor changes in ongoing clinical trials. And specifying that no subject will be recruited until IRB issues written approval of the trial. No subject will be recruited until IRB issues the approval for the clinical trial. And specifying that no deviation from protocol, no changes to protocol will be implemented until, so except in special situations like to eliminate the immediate hazard to the subject, or any administrative changes like change of monitor, change of telephone numbers and all, those you can change without approval, but the main protocol contents will not be changed without getting the approval for that. Okay. And IRB, like specifying that the investigator should promptly report to IRB. That means not only by the head of the institution, head of the site, even from the site also, investigator will be responsible for informing all these deviations of protocol to eliminate immediate hazards to the subject. Any deviations of protocol implemented to avoid, eliminate immediate hazard to the subject. Changes increasing the risk to the subject, affecting significantly conduct of trial. Changes increasing the risk of subjects. ADRs which are both serious and unexpected. ADRs which are both serious and unexpected. New information that may affect adversely the safety of the subject, conduct of the trial. Any new information that may affect adversely the safety of the subject, conduct of trial. All the areas should be informed. So from the side, investigator will be submitting all these to IRB. Changes of protocol, changes increasing the risk to subjects, all adverse drug reactions, any new information that may affect adversely the safety of the subjects, conduct of the trial. Ensuring IRB promptly notify in writing investigator concerning its trial-related decisions, opinions, reason for its decision, procedure for appeal of its decision. Okay, IRB promptly notify in writing investigator all these. Investigator has to submit these points to IRB. IRB also at the same time, they should notify the investigator in writing all these. Any approvals, reason for the approval, disapprovals, procedure for appealing that approval. Okay, records. IRB should retain all the relevant records. IRB should retain all the relevant records, written procedures, membership list, submitted documents, minutes of meeting, and for the period of at least 3 years after completion of the trial. Make them available upon request from the regulatory authorities. IRB should maintain all the relevant records, submitted documents, minutes of meetings for the period of at least 3 years. IRB may be asked by the investigators, sponsors, authorities to provide its written procedures, membership list. That's the reason they should maintain always the records. Even after completion of trial also, at least for 3 years, they have to maintain all the records. Yes, this is. We have done with the coding, right? Have we done with the coding, Nandini?
Yeah, ma'am. Coding is done, like the theory part is done.
Okay. Okay, so this is what the I have been. Let us say 21 CFR Part 11. 21. As you can recall, can you recall what is 21?
Food and Drug Administration, Code of Federal Regulations title. The title
CFR.
number 21 is Food and Drug Administration.
Right. So CFR is the Code of Federal Regulations. 21 is Food and Drug.
Food and
Deals with food and drug. Anything related to food and drug will be given in 21. In that we have many parts, especially part 11 deals with electronic records and electronic signatures, e-signatures, e-records. Electronic records and electronic signatures. Okay. So what is electronic record? And what is electronic signature?
the records stored in computers in database.
Right. Anything, any record which is created, approved, authorized, created by the anything which is in digital form, nothing but a record. What do you mean by e-signature then? Electronic signature is nothing but collection of symbols, compilation of symbols, which are legally equivalent to handwritten signatures, which are legally equivalent to handwritten signatures. Okay, so we have three subparts here: subpart A, subpart B, subpart C. So this is 21. Electronic records and signatures. This is important. It will provide the criteria. Okay, it will provide the criteria under which FDA accepts the electronic records and signatures, which are equivalent to paper records and handwritten signatures. So, under which criteria the FDA accepts electronic records and signatures? Okay. Created to facilitate faster submission. Created to facilitate faster submission applies to what? Applies to maintenance and submission of electronic records and signatures. Okay. So, maintenance, submission of electronic records and signatures. Applicability. So when electronic records are used instead of paper, we apply these guidelines. When person depends on electronic records in the computer system to perform the regulated activities, we follow them. And records submitted to FDA in electronic format, not only for the maintenance. Okay, and electronic signatures intended to be equivalent to handwritten signatures. Electronic signatures intended to be equivalent to handwritten signatures. Initials, general signings also. Okay. So we have three subparts here. Subpart A, general provisions. Subpart B, entire thing electronic records. Subpart C, electronic signatures. Okay, so 11.1 scope. In the general provisions, first we'll discuss scope. So this will create a criteria under which FDA considered electronic records and signatures, which are equivalent to handwritten signatures, which are equivalent to paper records in a whole or in a partial. Under what criteria FDA accept electronic records and signatures will be given there. Second one, implementation. Implementation, both the documents. For the records required to be submitted and for the records required to be maintained, but not for the submission. The person may use electronic records in lieu of paper records. Electronic signatures in lieu of traditional signatures, in a whole or in a part. So for the records required to be maintained, the records submitted to agency, person may use electronic records in place of paper records. Electronic signatures in place of traditional signatures in a whole or in a part. So implementation for the records required to be maintained, for the records required to be submitted, not just for the maintenance. In both the scenarios, persons may use electronic records in place of paper records. Definitions you can see. Except closed system, open system remaining all clear.
Yes, I see.
Okay. So we have open and closed systems, you can see. Okay. The closed system is an environment in which the system access is controlled by the person who is responsible for the content of record, which is in the system. But open is an environment in which the system access is not controlled by the person who is responsible for the content of record. Open, closed. Closed means whoever is responsible for the record, they only have access to the data. Okay, so access will be given by them, controlled by them. Open, open, closed. Closed is the environment where system is controlled by only one person. Means whoever is responsible for the record. Open is the person who is responsible for the content is one person, but it is open to different person. Okay. Open, closed. Biometrics, you know, identifying the person identity with the thumb impression, eye impression, like that. So you see the electronic records and signatures. Electronic record means any combination of the text, graphics, pictorial, audio, any other presentation in digital form, which is created, modified, maintained, archived, retrieved, distributed by the system. So electronic signature means compilation of data, compilation of any symbol, series of symbols executed, adopted, authorized by one person, that to be legally equivalent to handwritten signatures. Legally equivalent to handwritten signatures. These are all definitions. We have proper controls, proper procedures for the closed systems. The person who use closed system to modify, to create, to maintain, to transmit the electronic record shall employ the procedures, controls designed to ensure authenticity, integrity when appropriate, confidentiality of the electronic records. So we need to have a validation system. That means system wherever that you are using electronic record, we must check for the validation of that record, whether it is valid or not. Protection of the records. protection of the records. Protection of the records, validation of system, limiting access to only authorized people. Limiting access to only authorized people, authorized individuals. Use of secure, computer-generated, time-stamped audit trail, and use of authority checks. Use of secure, computer-generated, time-stamped audit trails means as it is electronic system, it is electronic record, right? Once you collect the data in electronic forms, so whenever you update the data, system will ask you, why are you updating? What kind of updation? Like, why do we need to update and all? Use of secure, computer-generated, time-stamped audit trail. Audit trail is a document which will capture the changes to the data. Limiting access to only one person. Maintain the proper audit trail. Audit trail is a document which will collect the changes, information of changes. Authority checks. Use of authority check. The person is qualified to authorize. Authority checks. Audit trail. Limiting access to only authorized people. Protection validation. Same thing will be applicable to open system also. The same controls that we have even for the open system also. But the only thing is system environment is different here. Here it is open. The person who use open systems to create, modify, maintain, transmit the record shall employ the procedures, controls designed to ensure authenticity, integrity, appropriate, as appropriate, and confidentiality of the record, confidentiality of the electronic record. The signature manifestation. Some electronic records shall contain the information associated with the signing. Means whenever the electronic record is signed, we should have information about the signer, name of the signer, date and time when the signature was executed, meaning associated with these are all the reasons about the signature. Whenever electronic record is associated, whenever the signed electronic record shall contain the information associated with the signing, name of the signer, date and time when the signature was executed, meaning associated with the signature. The signature record linking. It will be copied to respective link to respective record to ensure the signature cannot be copied, excised, transferred to files with the record. The general components, if you see, password and ID. General components, each electronic signature shall be unique to one person, shall not be reused by or reused to anyone else. So before sanctioning the individual's electronic signature, the company will verify the identity of the person, individual. At least two components, like ID and password. So signature be used only by the genuine owners. at least 2 ID and password and signature be used by a genuine owners only. At least 2 different components like ID and password and electronic signature can be used by only genuine owners. You can see the controls then. The person who use electronic signatures based upon ID in combination with password shall employ controls to ensure their security, integrity. Such controls shall include maintaining uniqueness of each ID and password. No two persons, no two individuals have same combination of ID and password. So maintain uniqueness of the records. No two people have same combination of ID and password. Ensuring that ID and password issuances are periodically checked, revised, recalled. In case of any loss of ID card, any other general signings associated with identification. And unauthorized access also should be immediately reported to the department. Unauthorized access. Limiting in like initial periodic testing of devices like tokens, cards, which has ID and password combination information. Right? Any loss of ID card which has ID and password should be immediately informed. Unauthorized access also should be immediately informed. Okay, so this is controls for open and like controls for the identification codes and passwords. This is 21 CFR Part 11. Deals with mainly electronic signatures and electronic records. That part you need to know. Next is investigator brochure, institution form code. Sorry. Indian, sorry. IP is the institutional product. IB is the investigator brochure. In general terms, actually IP is called the reference product. What is IP and what is IB?
Investigation product and investigation brochure. Investigation product means study drug.
Right.
And the investigation brochure means all information regarding to the trials and background information.
Not background of the mission, background of the study only.
Yeah, IP information.
IP information is the reference product, the product which is under tested, which is under researched.
Yeah.
That is IP. IP is the institutional, like investigational product. IP is the IB is the investigator brochure. Investigator brochure. So it's all information about the product. The entire IP information about information of product. Investigational product with information about the product. Product is nothing but investigational product, study product. So IP, compilation of both the data. IP consists of all the information so that you can see here. I'm just open IB only directly. So both are explained here, IP and IB. IP is the reference product. As you can see this. All the pharma companies or oblique to pharma companies being tested used as a reference in the clinical study. Investigator must thoroughly familiar with the properties like physical, chemical, safety of the product. And sponsors is responsible for preparing and providing the investigator and investigator brochure, which must include all the relevant information about the product. So IB will be separated time to time. Whenever you get the new information, any new relevant information available, it is into IB. Sponsor is responsible for preparing, providing investigator brochure, which include the product, okay, so which must be supplemented, dated whenever all the relevant new information is available. That means IB will be updated time to time. Okay. These are all the major events. Sponsor is responsible for supplying the product. Along with the IB, IP also will be given to the investigator. And sponsor should document the procedures, lay down the responsibilities for following adequate safe use of the product, safe receipt of the product. Okay. Adequate safe receipt, handling, storage, dispensing product, retrieval of unused product from the subjects, return of same product to the sponsor. Anyway, alternate disposal procedures will be done. Okay, so these are all the events involved. These are all the major events you can see: production, packaging, labeling, shipping to the site. At the site, it will be recalled and revised. It will be recalled from the subject unused product. The same subject will be returned to the sponsor. Alternate destruction process will be done. Brochure is a compilation of both the data, clinical, non-clinical, and IB should be relevant to the study of the product on human subjects. It should be relevant to the study of the product. Investigative brochure is a basic document required in clinical trial along with the protocol. These two are the basic documents. The protocol and IB. The contents of IB as per 21 CFR Part 312. In that section 112. The main purpose is to provide investigators, others involved in trial, with the proper information to facilitate their understanding the dose, frequency, route of administration. Safety monitoring procedure. To provide investigator Others involved in the trial with the information to facilitate their understanding the dose frequency. The information provided here should be concise, simple, objective, non-promotional form, balanced non-promotional form, which enable clinician, investigator, so they understand it and make their own unbiased risk and benefit assessment. So first page, title page. This should provide the sponsor's name, identity of each investigational product, where legally permissible, release date. It is suggested that edition number, reference to that number, and date of edition that it replaced, overseen. Subtitle page, all information about sponsor, product number, okay, where legally permissible, product number and all. So date desired by the sponsor. We'll have additions here. Additions, edition number, a reference to number, date of edition. That is what your title page. Second page, confidentiality statement. Sponsor may wish to include a statement stating that I treat the IB as a confidential document for their whole information. The table of contents, summary highlighting all the properties, investigation, physical, chemical, pharmaceutical, toxicological, pharmacological, kinetics, metabolic, all this information available relevant to the stage of the development of the product. Introduction. The brief introductory statement will be provided that contains chemical name, in which generic name or trade name, the chemical name of the product, all ingredients, investigational products, pharmacological class, position within that class, why you are performing that product, anticipated benefit, indication, therapeutic diagnostic indication. Finally, introductory statement will be given. It should provide general approach to be followed, evaluating investigational product. So this is physical, chemical, pharmaceutical properties of the product. Description should be provided of the investigation product substance. Brief summary should not be. It should be given of relevant physical, chemical, pharmaceutical properties. Highlighting all the properties and appropriate safety measures to be taken in the course of trial. Description of population to be studied, excipients, and instruction for storage of the product, storage, handling of those forms. Any similarities to other known compounds. Those are all should be maintained. 7 is about non-clinical, 8 is about clinical. 7.1 species tested, number of animals in each group, unit dose used, dose interval, route of administration, duration of dosing, distribution and systemic distribution, duration of post-exposure follow-up after completing follow-up, exposure dates and duration and all. This step. And results from the animal study. Adverse effects mainly. Nature, severity, frequency of toxic effects. Time to onset of the effect. In what time frame the event occurs. Reversibility of the same event. Dose response, if you increase the dose. If you decrease the dose. List of all the adverse events. Non-clinical pharmacology. The summary of pharmacological aspects of the product. So where appropriate, significant metabolites studied in animals should be included. Such a summary should incorporate studies. This is potential therapeutic activity as well. Those address safety. These are non-clinical pharmacology. 7.3 pharmacokinetics, product metabolism. Summary of kinetics, biological transformation, disposition of the product, studied in animals, like species studies should be given. The discussion of the findings should address absorption, local and systemic bioavailability of the product, metabolites, relationship with the pharmacological, toxicological findings. So toxicological effects also be studied here in different group of animals in different species. We'll take the summary of the toxicological research. 8 is the effect in humans, product metabolism and kinetics. Summary of brief introduction about pharmacokinetics of the product, like kinetics, bioavailability of the product, population subgroup, interactions, any other relevant data. So kinetics, dynamics, interactions, subgroups, availability of the product. Other pharmacokinetic data interactions. 8.2 safety and efficacy. The summary of information should be provided with products, safety, kinetics, dynamics, pharmacology. Those responses that were mentioned, some participants are. IRB should provide a reasonable number of members, reasonable tasks, possible tasks. Adverse drug reactions to be anticipated on basis of previous experience with the product under investigation and related products. So the complete list of all the adverse effects will have complete product safety, dynamics, efficacy of the product. IB should provide description of possible risk. What are all the interactions to be anticipated on the basis of the previous? Description should also be provided of precautions, special monitoring to be done as part of product, use of the drug, use of the drug. Okay, so they will treat the IB as a confidential document. The list of all the drugs, medication. 8.3 marketing experience. IB should identify the countries where IP has been already marketed. Let's say in India, we are conducting research. In some other countries, the product is already approved. Any new information, any relevant information arising from the marketing should be summarized. I will also identify all the countries where IP did not receive the approval or where it was withdrawn from the marketing. Summary of findings, guidance for them. The section should provide overall discussion of non-clinical clinical basis, summarizing information from different sources on different aspects of the product. What here? IB and IP. have done with all the concepts.
Okay.
Okay. So we are, I think, not remaining with any of the topics, right? What?
What, ma'am? I cannot understand.
Tomorrow we'll see the CTO introduction. I
Okay.
think one topic is left of my knowledge, but I don't think. Have we done with SAE? Yeah, it is done. SAE
Yes.
reconciliation.
Yes, it is done.
Yeah, that is what only one topic. I thought it is remaining, but it is done. Okay.
Yes.
So
So all theory part is done.
no. Cerium theory part not done. We'll start
Okay.
with Cerium theory part tomorrow.
Okay. It's only clinical trials, like all about
Yep.
clinical research theory.
Correct. We have
Okay.
done with clinical studies.
Okay.
Okay. So from
Yeah.
tomorrow onwards, we'll start with cerium theory. In case if there is any chance, you can just ping me in the morning session.
Yeah. Okay, ma'am. Sure.
Okay.
Tomorrow can I connect at the same time or 7 o'clock is fine? I mean, can I like
No.
evening time?
Regular time, 7:30. Yeah,
7:30.
you
Okay.
usually connect 7:30, 7 o'clock, right?
Yes, 7 o'clock. Yes.
Yeah, only for tomorrow, 7:30. If there is any possibility in the
Mm-hmm.
mornings or afternoons, your afternoons, let me know.
At
Ping.
this time, I'll be available tomorrow also.
This time bit difficult.
Okay.
Regular time connect, yeah, 9:30.
Sure. I'll connect at 7:30. Yeah. Tomorrow
Sorry,
7:30.
7:30 in the evening, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
7:30
Okay.
so far. Usually we connect what time? 8 o'clock.
No, 7 o'clock. Here 7. 7 to 8.
Then we'll connect 7:30 to 8:30 tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, sure. No problem. Yes.
7, 5, right.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Closing the
Thank you, ma'am.
session. Welcome. Bye. Tomorrow will be regular time. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Talk
Thank you, ma'am.
to you. Bye. Bye.